This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Maggi, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, as we get started, we want to thank our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. You can visit scrapinthecoast.com for more information. Their next event, 22nd annual, is going to be the last weekend in June. They haven't yet announced it for 2024, but rest assured, we will be out there. One of the biggest, baddest shows in the country. Get ready for more information coming soon on Scrapin' the Coast. Tap on the hashtag #ScrapinTheCoast for more information. We appreciate the continued support of Custom Car Show Productions. Yo, it's Our Lifestyle Podcast, episode 359. I can't believe I'm saying it. Going on 9 years in just a couple of months from now. Thank you so much. If you're a return listener, we can't thank you enough. This episode will be a little bit different. It'll be kind of more of a recap. And hopefully you guys will appreciate it. I figured, hey, it's better to do this than do nothing for this week. Took last week off, kind of hit you guys, I think, with 2 consecutive weeks. And I said, hey, a lot going on, so we'll talk about that. Now, at the top, if you're listening on the audio side, you're always going to hear us talk about Scrapin' the Coast. So I want to remind everyone that Scrapin' the Coast, our title sponsor, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd in Biloxi. You can go to scrapinthecoast.com. That's scrapin with an I-N, thecoast.com for more information. This is a Mini Truck Hall of Fame inductee, and it's one of the biggest, baddest shows around. We can't wait to be out there in Biloxi in less than 4 weeks. So join us if you can. Many of you come out to the event. Even if you come as a spectator, it's awesome. The merch goes quick, and there are a lot of good people. So we'll be talking about that on the next episode. On this episode, what I want to reinforce is I'm going to talk a little bit about summertime, maybe a little bit, just kind of what's going on. I figured I'd give you guys some updates. Some of you like the shorter episodes. I know Randy and Tim, they'll be coming at me with guillotines because of the shorter episodes, but much love, homies. We'll get through this. And again, I do have a couple of big episodes coming up, but they're not finished yet. So I don't want to rush. Some of them, we've been in the discussions for months and even longer to really get through and tell the stories of some of these famous trucks. So hopefully, if all goes well, the very next episode is going to be a very storied truck that was finished really in the last couple years. Many of you probably off the top of your head know the truck. And then also you would probably say, hey, it was finished at Mini Nats a year ago. But again, we'll be talking about that truck with the owner very soon. There's a rich history with it, and of course, I'm excited to bring you that story. It also involves someone that's no longer with us, unfortunately, so much more to come there. But basically, what I want to do is I want to say congrats to all the grads. My son graduated just over a week ago. Definitely a proud parent moment. If you have a child that has graduated, you know the feeling. If you are a parent that has a child that you're anticipating graduating in the very near future, it's definitely exciting. Now I understand a little bit. When I worked at the telecommunication company for so long and they did the promos called Grads and Dads, I was always like, okay, I get it. But this really is the grad in the dad season, right? Because you have the grads, the graduating class. And then you also, of course, have June roll around, summer's kicking off. You got Father's Day coming up. So happy Father's Day in advance for all the dads out there, all the great dads for sure. But I want to take a moment and say rest in peace to all those that we have lost in our military service. That is why we have the federal holiday, Memorial Day. So if you have a loved one or you have a friend or family or a classmate, anybody, let's take a moment of silence for them. Definitely rest in peace to the folks that we've lost. Some give a little, some give all. And I often see people, I've said this in the past, I don't mean this in a negative way, but I've seen people in the past, like they do tend to get Memorial Day and Veterans Day mixed up. And I've seen some people lead in with a good thing, hey, we want to thank everyone for their service. But on Memorial Day, we're really honoring those that lost their life during the time of service. So again, want to always give much love to the men and women in the armed services. I know at my son's graduation, what was really neat is they did a very thorough job. I think he had just over 600 people in his class, and the whole entire session was only 90 minutes. They did just an unbelievable job. And I think if I remember correctly, there's 66 schools, my wife said, in Hillsborough County, high schools. So they've kind of got it down, but they did a standing ovation for, I believe it was 12 students that had agreed to go into the armed services. And, what a feeling, to see the standing ovation of the entire auditorium type arena at the fairgrounds where my son graduated, and to see the standing ovation and the clapping for these kids that are going to further their career. Hopefully, God willing, they'll be able to come home safe. But I often look and say, hey, I was not a service member myself. I don't know that I could have even handled it, but I always tip my cap to those that do. And speaking of tipping the cap, Sean from Rad BMX Builds picked this hat up. So thanks, Sean, for the merchandise. He's got cool stuff at radbmxbuilds.com. But, when you think about tipping the cap to someone, Sean did when he came on the podcast, he's talked about it. I brought it up. Just over 27 and a half years, I think, give or take, right around 27.5 in the service. That's something to be said. So again, to those that we've lost, rest in peace. Thank you for helping keep, this country, free. And to those that are still serving or did serve, we'll of course tip our cap every day, as we should, but we'll really do it again when we get to Veterans Day. So much love to everyone out there. This episode, again, I'm going to maybe just hint a little bit about summertime, a couple things that'll tie in there, which I think we started a year or two ago. Mike and I did a summertime little vibe, and I'll probably do maybe a similar thumbnail to the YouTube video or the Spotify artwork. For those that don't know, I actually take the time, and I've done this since episode 1. I've gotten a little bit better skill set, still not as good as Diggity Don Davis, but I take the time to create artwork for every single episode, and now it's times 2 because I do one for Spotify, and I do one which unfortunately doesn't always update on Apple Podcasts because of their requirements. Apple's got to be different, but then also I do a thumbnail, if you will. That's the little image that you see on YouTube. So what I would ask is, many of you consume this content, however you consume it, please don't stop. But if you are consuming in a way, like let's say you're on the road and you're listening through Podbean, please also go watch it, stream it at some point. Even if you're at home and you kind of pull up your browser and you go, I'm going to put it on in the background. Do that on YouTube because it helps us, believe it or not. There's so many YouTube channels out there, and any little bit that you can do. People often ask, hey, how can I help? Well, that's one way. I know Craig Braid, a.k.a. CB Cooper. Well, maybe not CB Cooper, but CB Braid. He's out there streaming it on YouTube, and I can't thank him enough. Craig, point out what you like in this video. This time I've kind of moved some things around. I'm going to start trying to do a little bit more Easter eggs maybe. But if you're watching at home, this is when I was on Brandon Burrell's podcast, Modified Rides. He kind of jokingly said, hey, is that your bedroom? And what's ironic is everything that's around me, I never intended to have my setup this way. You probably won't believe that. But the way things have worked out with me merging or jumping, I guess, merging a little bit into the video world, this is kind of the background setup. So I've got my Back to the Future stuff, and I've got a few Easter eggs in here that kind of tie into this episode, so I'll try to do more of that. Speaking of that, some of the Easter eggs tie into Summertime, and it's one of my favorite jams of all time. I know Diener from Low Bros, he's out there He's rocking some Summertime as well. He loves some Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just as I do. And that single to Summertime, I remember going to the mall in Tampa. And it's no longer even a mall anymore. They're hodgepodging it because these malls are kind of going out of business. But I remember going to the mall on Fowler Avenue, buying this tape cassette. I actually still have it over in my tape cassette section somewhere over here. And the single, I bought it not on release date. It was probably late May or early June of 91. I know for a fact. But Summertime single, it dropped on May 20th, 1991. So think about that for a second. 33 years ago, which is just insane. More to come on that song and that album, Home Base. I'm working on some things I think you guys will appreciate, and other people on YouTube will definitely appreciate. But here's some of my favorite lyrics. The way that people respond to summer madness, the weather is hot and girls are dressing less, and checking out the fellas to tell them who's best, riding around in your Jeep or your Benzos, or on your Nissan, or in your Nissan sitting on Lorenzos. Definitely a laid-back track. There's some cool facts about it that we'll talk about in the future, but that's kind of the Summertime vibe for this episode. Now, I think in a social media post the other day, I mentioned this. For many of us in Florida, the Floridians, or as Fester from South Florida Relaxed Atmosphere calls us, the Floridians. Many of us, it's already summer. We're already there, and we're doing the damn thing. We're swan diving into the lakes. I know I am. Jumping into the pools, cannonballs, sweating our you-know-what's off. But for many parts of the United States, you're just getting started. Kind of the Memorial Day weekend is what I understand the unofficial kickoff to the summer. It's like so many people kind of had that long weekend again for the federal holiday, and you should really start ramping up in different parts. And I'm always curious, when I was younger and I would watch movies like The Great Outdoors, and you see these beautiful areas where these movies were filmed, and you see the water skiing and the cabins and the lakes and everybody having a good time. It always made me think, like, wow, how different is it in different parts of the country? I'm from Florida, where we could swim almost year round. Really, in my parents' pool, we could pretty much swim year round. I mean, it does get a little chilly, with the water temp, but it's always been intriguing to me. Again, going back, that's one reason why I love film so much, because you can go back and you can watch these movies like A Great Outdoors, and it really, at least for me, it transports me back to those times, even with the cheesy music and things like that. I find myself on Amazon Prime so often. They have so many weird B movies on there. Some I've never even heard about, or maybe I did when I was a kid. But anyways, it all kind of comes back to it's summertime, and I'm super stoked about it. The episode overview is brought to you by our family at Hammered Weekend Wear. I would ask, if you get an opportunity, please visit HAMMERD weekendwear.com. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen for those that are watching on YouTube. And obviously, many of you know about Hammered Weekend Wear, HAMMERD weekendwear.com, as I mentioned. And here's the cool thing. On their main landing page, they've got a lot of the newer merch. So they've really had the flat bill game on lock a very long time. You've got some very, very cool colors. They've got some 90s theme stuff. Also, you have Follow the Drip. You have the white tee shots. And you have so much more, including the Limelight and whatnot. So if you get a chance, visit them, show them some love. And of course, they go to way more shows than we do. Ron, even when he owned the company, he did as well. There are always boots on the ground supporting the scene. Show them some love, Hammered Weekend Wear. Okay, so this episode, again, I'm going to move through it a little bit quicker just to give you guys and ladies something. I also wanted to say one thing that I forgot to mention. This popped up. I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and this popped in my head. When I mentioned the top 10 things this year that I loved about Southeast Mini Truckin Nationals, one thing that I wish I would have said, and this is near and dear to my heart, is they do the national anthem. And I think that's so awesome. There's not many shows that I know of that take the time to do that. I don't know of any other show. So I think that's something very unique. I think Jason Bell and team, they do a great job with that. so many people have chimed in to say, man, I've never been to Mini Nats. I want to go. Yes, you need to go every April. You can go to Southeast Mini Truckin National's website. You can Google that, go on Facebook, and you can find more information. So, the breaking news, this one is super cool. I'm a huge Eminem fan. I always have been, all the way back to the 90s. And believe it or not, I've always been a huge Dr. Dre fan, going back to the Chronic. And it was so ironic that Eminem ended up falling under, the Dr. Dre umbrella. So it was like awesome for me. But Eminem's new single drops on May 31st, 2024. That's tomorrow. I'm doing this recording a little bit later. I'm doing this a little bit later than I normally do in the week. Again, just trying to balance things. But I'm stoked that Dre announced the upcoming album. I think I mentioned this recently. He announced it via Jimmy Kimmel, which I think was awesome. And something else that's very cool. Warren G on his YouTube channel, he had dropped a new track recently. And a lot of times these guys are in the studio, they're making songs. They don't end up finishing a song. It doesn't get mixed. It doesn't get mastered. It doesn't get released. And I hear so many awesome unreleased songs. I've got a pretty big collection of unreleased, especially West Coast hip hop, Eminem, you name it. But something that I think is super cool is Warren G teased a song called Cali to Canada. That's with the number 2. They're on a tour right now, or they're getting ready to start the tour. And I noticed today on May 30th that they dropped that track. I follow a lot of these artists, so I get a notification in Spotify. And which was super cool is they did finish the track Cali to Canada. So very, very cool. And I'll be jamming that track. It's kind of that classic West Coast sound, the classic, what I would say G-Funk. We love G-Funk. I know I do. So the breaking news is brought to you by our family at Lone Star Throwdown. You can visit LoneStarThrowdown.com. It's every February. Many of you say, hey, how do I get in? You can buy a spectator pass. Or, by the way, around August 1st, they will open up the pre-registrations. They go quick. We're talking less than 72 hours. And if you get that golden ticket, if you will, you can gallivant on in. It's about 95%, if not higher, trucks. There are some cars, but it's mostly a truck event. LoneStarThrowdown.com for more. So the general updates, it's summertime. Right. So I talked about this, and although it may seem like I've slowed down a little bit, I think some people would go, man, ODB, we're talking about maybe getting an episode every week. I'm still kind of working on that. Obviously, I gave you guys a couple back-to-backs. I know like 2024, I think if you looked at that scope compared to the other years, you would maybe say, wow, like your episodes, some of them have been a little shorter. Some of them, you haven't been super heavy on guests. And absolutely, I get it. There's still a big list. I'm still trying to knock through, these folks. But I will tell you this, I haven't slowed down. It's really balanced. That's the key word in my life now. I'm putting out YouTube videos. So if you haven't checked those out on OLP's YouTube channel, please do so. But let's not forget, my son graduated, as I mentioned, spending time with my mom, my wife, my friends, my family. May 31st, which is tomorrow, I took the day off, not for the new Eminem track, which I want to hear at midnight tonight, but I'm going to be going to my parents, and I'm going to be working on some things there, doing some maintenance. Our dear friend, Fred, who was one of my dad's best friends, he's going to be spending some time. He built my parents' pool house about 20 years ago, and we're going to be doing some things. So, many of you are going to be on the road, going to shows, sweating your butt off. That is an awesome thing. And that's the great thing about our country. You can do kind of what you want, right? There's rules and regulations, but at the same time, you can get out there and you can do the damn thing. And that's what I love. And for some of those folks, I think, you're going to see me continue to sunset a little bit because I haven't been doing this longer than a lot of you, some of you that are listening. But I've been doing it longer than most. And what I mean by that is, since 96, I've never taken a year off, even the year my son was born. I went to at least one show, if not multiple shows. So for me, it's that balance. So, for the rest of this year, I got a couple more shows. And again, what I wanted to kind of say is with the general updates is it's a balance, right? And everybody should have that. Sometimes I rhyme slow, sometimes I rhyme quick. They say too much of anything will make you an addict. Well, I'm also the Lincoln addict, right? So I've got my love for everything Lincoln over there. So it's that balance, right? That's the key thing. General updates brought to you by Southeast Mini Truckin Nationals, also known in short as Mini Nats. We cannot wait for Southeast Mini Truckin Nationals every April. We just finished the 30th. I know you're probably going, yo, ODB, you're really already talking about 2025? Yeah, because cabins have already sold out, things like this. Someone asked me recently, hey, how can I book a cabin? And I talked to Randy, and I think he said there's Vrbo. A lot of people use that. A lot of people use Airbnb. But I think there's also like a North Carolina cabin rentals type website. So if you've never been, obviously the area is beautiful. We hope that you can make it up next year. We'll talk more about that show as we move throughout the year. Next, we got trivia with Miggity Mike. And I know some of you are going, where's Miggity Mike? Hey, I'm not even going to give him a hard time. It's summertime. He's balancing his daily job, his home watch business, and all that stuff. But here's the question. Some of you are going to get this, probably not many. I know Joey, J-Dub, out there, he's got his dash ripped out of his daily driver, slamming it when Mike doesn't know the answers. I mean, Joey has told me, yo, ODB, I just can't with Mike. So he goes, yo, if you can get Mike out of it, then we don't have to deal with that stress of it. And I agree, J-Dub. What song did DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince's Summertime track sample? Now, here's the only hint that I'm going to give you. I read you some lyrics earlier, right? I sang those lyrics, damn it. And in those lyrics, I mentioned 2 words, and that ties into obviously the track, but who that track was sampled from. So if you've got access to Spotify or Apple Music or one of the other streaming services, check this track out when you're finished listening to OLP. The song's instrumental samples Summer Madness by Kool and the Gang, and it's awesome. When you listen to that song, you'll hear it right away. And that's the cool thing about music, with sampling becoming so big in the 80s and 90s, especially with hip-hop. As I've gotten older, even when I was younger, I didn't know. My dad used to say the greatest music's already been created. And then, hip-hop comes along and kind of recreates some things. And as I've gotten older and I'm listening to certain things, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, that's where it came from. Of course, I'm also following some different guys on YouTube that really break down samples like insane. If you think I know mini trucks and magazines and dates, there's people that can rattle this stuff off, the sampling of songs, Mobb Deep, what track was this, how they slowed it down. Let me recreate it. Cool stuff. I'll talk about that more in the future. Trivia with Mike is brought to you by our family at Garage Gear Clothing. You can visit garagegearclothing.com if you want to buy merchandise. They do have a free shipping option if you spend a certain threshold. Oh, by the way, they also support the scene, shows all throughout the country, Garage Gear Clothing, or visit their booth. They're good people, Lonnie Radar, and of course, Crystal holding it down, as well as Radar's wife. Trivia with Mike. Again, thank you to Garage Gear Clothing for the continued support. I'm going to go ahead and cover the scene updates. This one's going to be quick. Number one, I want to let you know that the Mini Truck Hall of Fame, the committee, we are diligently working through some things. We're a little probably behind where we were normally each year. That's not a bad thing. Bob Hayes, I think, will continue to help a little bit. And he's probably going to sunset and work on some things more that he wants to, focus on, some projects. I talked to him the other day. He's doing great, by the way. He said to tell everyone hello. But rest assured, we're working through that. So we'll hopefully, in the next, maybe by July 1st, we'll have some names to announce for the 2024 inductees, but more to come. Upcoming shows, so I want to reinforce, many of you are already at this event, Battle in Bama / OBS Nationals. Be safe. Hopefully you're streaming this content on the way home, and hopefully you had a great weekend. It looked like it was hot. I saw some preliminary photos of people arriving, so super cool. That's this weekend, of course, the 31st into Sunday. I can't not mention Goonies Day is June 7th, and that ties into the fact that, let's not forget, Goonies came out 1 month before Back to the Future in good old, what year, Mike? Mike's not even here, and he doesn't know the answer. A good old year of 1985. And if you go down the bunny trail, I know a lot of people send this to me. yes, if you really dig deep, Back to the Future and Goonies took place in the Amblin world of Steven Spielberg the same weekend, technically, in October. So it's pretty cool. You got to go down that bunny trail if you haven't, if you're a big fan. Scraping the Coast is June 21st to the 23rd, as I mentioned, in Biloxi. Mini Truck Showdown is also that same weekend. So all of our kinfolk out west, Bakersfield, California, big stuff. Cordy and team have worked hard. I know I haven't had a chance to talk a lot about it, but Mini Truck Showdown, arguably Bakersfield, when Chad Lucas used to live there, I think he lived in Bakersfield. I used to say it was kind of the heartbeat of mini trucking community in the U.S. There were so many people there. Josh Ellis is, he's got lineage there. When you talk about Cal Concepts and just so much came out of there. So it's cool to see that, people will tell me, man, the West Coast is kind of slow right now with shows. This is a way you can get out and support the real deal. Holyfield Mini Truck Showdown on Instagram or Facebook for more info. The Scene Updates is brought to you by Colorado Custom Wheels. I'll go toe-to-toe, tat for tat with anyone, and I'll tell you Colorado Custom Wheels, the best in the industry, the best customer service. I do know that it does take time. Some people say, man, it takes a little bit. I get it. Plan ahead on your projects. Patience is a virtue. Hit up Colorado Custom with no S.com. Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut. Old Dirty Ballard, live and uncut. Just want to reinforce to you, keep pushing ahead on those projects or your goals, whether it's saving money, whether it's spending more money, whether it's buying a house, whatever you're doing. Keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, I repost stuff from Ice-T. And Ice-T posts a lot of good motivational stuff. And he actually used to have, I think he still does it, a daily podcast. It's like 3 minutes long. And he's reinforced this before. In social media, a lot of us just post the good stuff. I mean, sure, some people post like, hey, I'm not feeling well. Hey, can you say prayers for my parents? I get that, right? That's social media. But a lot of us, we're posting, hey, I got a new car. Hey, look at this new house I bought. Hey, look, I just won a trophy. Hey, some people, I think when you constantly see that, and maybe, if you're in a tough place in your life, maybe that frustrates you. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, remember, social media is a lot of people posting the good stuff that's going on. So if that gets you down, uninstall your app for a while, or close your app, or do what I do. I hate to say this. I don't mean this in any mean way. I have my notifications turned off on almost everything. And it's not to, say, hey, I'm better than anyone or anything, but I've just learned, I worked at a telecommunication company for 20 years. I was the guy that as soon as the email came in, I picked up my phone, I responded. And I was like this and this and this and this. And I was like the first, and Messenger was going off and this and, back and forth. And for me, sure, I moved up the corporate ladder and I had a good job and I loved what I did for many, many years. It just was, I felt like being the person that respond first and respond to the emails, and that it just didn't do much for me. And I lived that and I did it. You'll hear people say, I've been there and done that. And so for me, with so many different apps and emails and this and this and this, it's hard to keep up with everything. Sure, I could do it, but I got a normal job. I've got my Lincoln podcast. I've got a couple channels. I'm doing my best to do what makes me happy, and that's creating this content. Never would have thought I'd be creating content like this, but I am, and I'm so thankful for anyone that appreciates it. Many of you come up to Mini Nats, and I said this before, and you said, yo, ODB, I appreciate what you do. Maybe you only listen to one episode here and there. I get it. No love lost, man. If you listen to 1 minute of the content, it helps us out, and I appreciate you, and I want everyone to know that, again, I've said this in the past, if you're dealing with struggles, if you've got things going on, whatever it may be, reach out to a friend. If you really need to, talk, hit me up. I do check my messenger only about once a week. I scan it really quick. But if there's something that you go, yo, man, or email me, our lifestylepodcast@gmail.com. I do check the emails and I do my best to get back to those. So just know you're appreciated. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of stresses. I don't go out there and post all the stressful stuff I've got going on, with just situations. So you might look at my feed and go, oh, man, must be nice. This guy's got this and this and this. Yeah, I'm posting that stuff because it's kind of a relief a little bit. And it gets me into a different space. It gets me into a different mindset. Hey, man, like this stuff behind me, I don't know what it is. It kind of brings me back to a better place. Not a better place, but just a great time in my life, the Back to the Future stuff, the rad stuff, So be what it is. Some people collect cars, some people collect Hot Wheels, some people collect junk, but it's what we do. So enough of that. If you want to go a step further and you want to go on YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing there. You can sub on YouTube. There's a couple of different levels from I think $1.99 a month on up. I'm going to do some behind the scenes stuff. You can also do a super thanks if you want to give something, and any of those funds that come in there is going to go towards maybe buying a publication here and there that that could create more content. Over the years, I have spent more money than I care to share related to magazines. Even my wife's like, you're buying all this crap, right? I bought something the other day and I just did a new video. I don't want to show you the cover of it, but my recent video. And the stuff's not cheap, but sometimes I feel like I just got to have it because I want to document the stuff. So again, if you want to kind of go above and beyond, maybe you want to subscribe through YouTube, that would be appreciated. The recent video I mentioned ties into Mini Nats 1990, believe it or not, and it's kind of a weird, obscure magazine, and believe it or not, when I posted it, a few people knew about it, which I thought was super cool, and that's why I went the extra mile and got it. Speaking of going the extra mile, I want to give a huge shout out to Local Rides Mag. Talk about them a lot. Local Rides, RIDEZ mag.com. The team there does a great job. Bill's a great dude. I know Mini Truckin's back. We all know Mini Truckin Magazine.net. I think I messed it up the other day. I think I put Mini Truckin. It's either minitruckinmag.net or minitruckinmagazine.net. We all know they're back, but let's not forget about the guys and the ladies out there that have been hustling as well, like Local Rides Mag. Good people. You will see our ad in that publication. Go check them out. Podcast updates. Do me a favor, leave us a rating. If you're on Spotify, if you're on Pandora, if you're on Apple Podcasts consuming this content, however you are, go in there. Make sure that you leave a 5-star rating. It helps the show. We're going to do some more merch later this year. We've got some cool things in the work. We're going to blow some people's minds, hopefully, which I think is going to be cool. I want to thank the freaking weekend. So I know I talked a little bit about shows in the next month, but 3 months after Scraping the Coast, we're going to be back in Biloxi for the freaking weekend. So Trip and team are doing just a fantastic job the freaking weekend on Instagram and Facebook. They're good people. So it's that weekend of 9/20. We're going to be there. And for anybody that went last year to the inaugural, not the first annual, Mike, it's the first one is the inaugural. I think last year was the inaugural, right? People just loved it. Scotty the Body, Jenna Lee, so many people went and said, dude, this is a cool, I don't even want to say end of summer because it's been popping off with the temperatures all year. So September's going to be unreal. Please join us at the freaking weekend. Parting words. I know, again, a little bit shorter of an episode, but I said, hey, why throw the towel in? I could have just been like, I ain't going to do an episode this week. I wanted to talk about some key things. Got some Easter eggs back here that'll tie into some upcoming content. And I certainly appreciate each and every one of you. Even the haters, even people that might go, I don't like what they're doing. I've heard people say, I don't like this guy's voice. I don't want to hear more of it. Hey, there's enough out there for everyone. And like my dad used to say, if you don't like something, just change the channel. You know what I mean? Now, I don't want to lose any subscribers. I don't want to lose any good kinfolk out there. But, in all seriousness, I mean that in a little bit of jest, that there's plenty out there for everyone. There's lots of good people. And I can't thank them every single episode. But if you go back and you listen to almost 350 episodes, we've thanked a lot of people across the country, across the world, that are doing great things. So it's not just us. It's not just about us. It's about this bigger thing that we call the scene. And that's why I'm so happy to be a part of the Mini Truck Hall of Fame. Much more coming on that. And I can't thank you enough. Again, our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We're going to be there in Biloxi. It's going to be an amazing time. Get some of that Freon poisoning that we call air conditioning. That's a Papa Smurf reference for those that did not know. If I forgot anything, my apologies. We'll hit it next time. I do want to thank AccuAir. They continue to support the scene. They continue to support Eastbound Get Down, which I don't know why they do. Just kidding, Mike. But seriously, everyone have a safe weekend. And Lord willing, we'll hit you next week with another episode. So, DB, I approve this message. Stay on the rise, y'all. We out you.